So we'll excuse him and wish him a safe return back to us. I have asked Councilman Clough to offer our opening prayer, followed by Councilman Belliston to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear Father, which art in heaven, we are grateful for this opportunity to come together and discuss the needs and the affairs of Washington City. We ask thee at this time to put a special blessing upon those who are attending, both those of the council who are collaborating on the interests of the city and those who are proposing ideas that may improve and benefit the welfare and identity of our town. We ask thee, Father, as we are so few people with such responsibility, that we may use our responsibility with the best intent and within the strict parameters of our powers. And we may do those things that honor both the beauties of our Constitution and the rights of these people who live here. At this time, we ask that thou put a special blessing upon each one of us, that instead of hoping for others to care for the sick and the needy and those who are in need, that we may each find a way to be a blessing in the lives within our influence, that we may see and act upon the needs of our community in a way which is honorable to the spirit of the season, to care for those who are in need of care that otherwise we have overlooked. We pray for a special blessing upon our military servicemen and women who give so much and put their lives on the line for our freedom abroad and for our policemen and firefighters and all those who do so much within our town. For all we do, we pray for their mercy, that we may continue to be blessed by the hand in this great land. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Clough and Councilman Belliston, for that. Oh, boy. Our first item is our approval of our agenda. Looks like we have about 11 items on our agenda this evening.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Motion for approval by Councilman Belliston, seconded by Councilman Clough.
Ward, aye. Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Belliston, aye.
Turek, aye. Item number 2, announcements. Are there any announcements to be made from the council? The only one I would say is, since this is our last meeting in December, we wish all of our citizens a Merry Christmas. Hope that you have a great holiday season. We look forward to a great next year. So we won't reconvene until after the new year. Item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Any to declare this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to item 4, our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of the approval of minutes from the city council meetings of 11/28/18, our board audit report for the month of November, and a final plat for the Stamsund Estates located approximately 3200 South, 300 East. Any discussion concerning our consent agenda?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion for approval by Councilman Belliston. Second by Councilman Clough.
Ward, aye. Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Belliston, aye.
Turek, aye. Item 5, finance. A presentation of our 2016-2017 fiscal year audit by Hinton Burdick, Hall, and Spilker. Welcome to our meeting this evening. Glad to have you here. Look forward to a great report. Thanks.
All right. It's good to be with you this evening. I'm Dave Whitwer with Hinton Burdick. We're the auditors of the city. Got Mike Spilker here with me as well. He's an audit partner with the firm. And we're here to actually present the fiscal year 2017-2018 audit. The year ended June 30, 2018.
Oh, got that misprint.
It's a little misprint, but that's all right. So I believe you've got copies of the audited financial statements. I'll be mainly referring to the slide here, the presentation materials up on the screens. I think you may have them there as well. So I'll first touch on our audit reports and findings, and then we'll look at some of the financial highlights, some graphs, and some of the selected financial data. And that'll focus mainly on the major funds of the city. A little bigger for you there. All right, so our audit reports and the page numbers referred to up on the screen come from the financial statements here. Our independent auditor's report on page 1, we've issued an unmodified or a clean opinion. And looks like I missed that top item. We've also issued a separate 3-page letter, a governance letter that has our standard required communications to the governing body. So again, page 1 is our main audit report, an unmodified or clean opinion. And page 77 towards the back is our report on compliance and on internal controls over financial reporting. And there are no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies noted. And then our report on state compliance, page 79, we've issued an unmodified or clean opinion, and there are no instances of non-compliance there. So as you note here, no audit findings, which is great for the city, and we commend those involved, management, finance department, for their efforts. All right. So now we'll get into some of the financial highlights. I'll first touch on the general fund. So this shows the balance sheet trends for the last 5 years. So you've got assets, your top line there, the pink line liabilities, and then fund equity is that bottom line.
Excuse me, do you have that on a page within here, or is this just an overall presentation?
Yeah, the graphs aren't in here.
Okay, that's just double checking.
Yeah,
I was trying to follow along there.
Yeah, the numbers from fiscal year 18 in the graphs come from these financial statements.
Thank you.
Yep. Question. All right. So this is a snapshot as of the end of the fiscal year for the last 5 years. So you can see that pink line. Liabilities are up mainly due to an increase in construction bond liabilities. There's a related increase in cash and investments, assets. And then the bottom line is fund balance or equity, so your assets less your liabilities. And that's over 5 million, you can see there, just over 5 million, which is an overall increase from the previous year of about 2.5 million. And the majority of that fund balance, that 5 million, is unassigned fund balance, and that's 4.5 million. So that's available to be used in future years. It carries over. So as you see there on that fund balance, that bottom line, fiscal year 15 was kind of the low end in recent years after combining the golf course and the general fund, and now it's back. The fund balance is back to a more healthy fund balance level. So that's a positive trend there. And obviously, there will be fluctuations in over the years in fund balance there. That's expected. All right, so continuing with the general fund, revenues and expenditure trends. This excludes transfers and other financing sources. So you can see the revenues are the top line, the pink line is expenditures. There's nearly a 4.1 million net increase before transfers for the year. So revenues were greater than expenditures. And over a $2.5 million increase after transfers. And the city budgeted for an increase of about 1.3 million for the year. So the increase was greater than the budgeted amount. Revenues were up nearly 2 million, and that's mainly due to property taxes, sales tax, plan check fees, and building permits. Building permit revenues were up nearly 49% over the previous year, so significant growth there. And then the bottom line, the expenditures are up about 500,000 or 3% for the year. And you can see that kind of the breakout here by program and function. comparing fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 17. You can see overall it's relatively consistent. And again, the net increase over the previous year was about $500,000. Just looking at a couple of the main revenues in the general fund. Sales tax revenues, you can see the 5-year trend there, up over $6 million for fiscal year 18. Sales tax revenues have increased each of the past 5 years, and over those 5 years, it's about a 44% increase. Sales tax revenues are about 34% of the city's general fund budget. The increase for fiscal year 18 was about 12.6%. And looking at the same type of information for property tax revenues, you can see the significant increase there as well from the growth. Nearly 32% over the last 5 years, 10% increase for fiscal year 18 from the growth. And property tax revenues in the general fund are about 16% of the budget. Any questions on any of the general fund information?
So far, no.
All right. So we'll take a look at each of the major utility funds. First, the water fund. And we'll first look at on each of them the operating revenues and expenses, and then the kind of the unrestricted equity and cash trends. So the blue line is total revenues, and the pink line is total expenses. You can see for fiscal year 18, revenues exceeded expenditures by about $138,000, and that increase there. So both revenues and expenses were up for the year. And looking at the cash and investments and unrestricted equity trends. So in the utility funds, a lot of the equity is tied up in capital assets. So just focusing on the unrestricted equity that's available to be spent in future years, that's not tied up in capital assets or restricted for impact fees or debt reserves. You can see the unrestricted equity of approximately $5.75 million, that pink line. That was an increase of about $744,000 for the year. And if you compare that to the water fund's operating expenses for fiscal year 18, that amount equals about 90% of the annual operating expenses of the water fund. Cash was up about 6% in the water fund. Let's see. Moving to the sewer fund. You can see the expenses are greater than the revenues in recent years. For fiscal year 18, there was a $263,000 net operating loss. Revenues were down about $93,000 or 5%. There was a fee decrease in March of 2017. Expenses were also down some. If you include non-operating activities in the sewer fund, such as impact fees, there was a positive increase of about $646,000, and positive cash flows from operating activities of about $32,000. And as you see here on the cash and equity trends, the pink line there, the unrestricted equity of over $6 million. It's very consistent, very strong balance, and that $6 million balance is about over three times the fiscal year 18 operating expenses for the sewer fund. So despite the operating loss, the fund balance, the unrestricted equity or net position is very strong there. And you see about $8.2 million in cash and investments, an increase of approximately $500,000. Electric fund revenues are up about 8%. Operating revenues and operating expenses are up about 2%. So the net, the gross margin improved some for fiscal year 18. There's been recent rate increases, and so the net operating income was about $1.4 million for the fiscal year, compared to about $586,000 of the previous year. So looking,
Do you include recommendations with what you think that margin should be?
we typically don't look at that as part of our financial statement audit. You know, rate studies can definitely be done and so forth there, but that's not part of our regular financial statement audit.
Okay.
Yeah. So looking at the unrestricted equity for the electric fund, you can see there about 6.7 million at the end of fiscal year 18, an increase of about 500,000 from the previous year, and that represents about 56% of fiscal year 18 operating expenses. Cash and investments were up about 8%. So you can see over the last few years that that trend has increased there of the increase in the unrestricted equity with those improved margins. And then storm drain. You can see the activity is continuing to increase, both revenues and expenses. There's been significant net operating margins in each of the past 5 years. And the unrestricted equity, 1.9 million at the end of fiscal year 18. That's actually an 18% decrease, but it's still about 2 times the current year operating expenses. And cash and investments were down slightly, but relatively consistent. So finally, to wrap up, just a quick look at the remainder of the city's funds. These are all the non-major funds. And this is the total equity for each of those funds. You can see the capital projects funds, the special revenue funds, debt service funds, internal service fleet fund, and then the irrigation fund. So I'll comment on a couple of them. Most of them are pretty consistent. You can see the increase or decrease in the last column there. The capital projects fund recreation, the increase there is mainly due to impact fees and minimal capital outlay activity for the year. So the increase in the fund balance. And then capital projects fund streets, again, increase in impact fee revenues and a decrease in street projects for the year. So the increase in the fund balance. And then you see the bottom one there, irrigation, over 4 million. And that is essentially all investment in capital assets. There was significant current year capital contribution for the irrigation fund, so it contributed to that increase. All right, any questions? Any other questions? We appreciate the opportunity to provide audit services to the city, and we're grateful to Kimberly Rouge and Brian Brown and all those who assisted us with the audit. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and they do a great job in preparing and helping us with the audit. So we thank them.
Thank you. We appreciate your work with that. And a great appreciation goes to our finance department of our city. You can see what great hands our city's in with those great people there. So thanks to them too. Appreciate that. All right, we'll move to item 6, a lease purchase. Consideration to approve a lease purchase with Zions Bank Corporation to purchase equipment for the Public Works Department and the Power Department. City Treasurer Kerry Wheelwright.
Thank you. I'm bringing a 5-year lease purchase on those 3 pieces of equipment for the Public Works Department. There are 2 pieces of equipment for the Power Department, 1 piece. We're working with Zions Bank about this lease purchase. I think you should have gotten this afternoon an amended amount on the lease purchase because the price on the digger that we are purchasing for the Power Department came in at $4,000 less than what we had originally anticipated. So it's a lease purchase in the amount of $400,227 for the equipment lease purchase. And that is over a 5-year period of time that we're going to be making payments on that. The interest rate on that is 3.6% over that period of time. The payments will be due in June and December of each year. June payment will be an interest-only payment. The December payment will be a principal plus an interest payment. They run about a little over $88,000 a year for a 5-year period of time. It will be concluded in December of 2023. So
Well, this was one we talked about where we combined a couple of the lease purchases to get the lower interest rate. You'll remember a month ago.
We seem to be trending to lease purchases as opposed to outright purchases. Can you address that?
Yeah, I don't know if we're trending necessarily. I think we've always seen the proper role of lease purchases. I don't know, Carrie may be able to weigh on this, but I don't think that we have, we see for equipment that lease purchases are beneficial to us, especially when we can use those funds that otherwise would have been picked up in the interest rate. So we use debt kind of as a tool more than anything else.
we do.
And I don't know if the trending's been off on lease purchases at all. I think this is pretty consistent with what we've done in times past, has it not been?
Oh, we have 4 or 5 lease purchases that are out there right now, and it's generally a good opportunity for us to get new equipment at a reduced interest rate. So we're not tying up our capital at that point in time. We're using Zions Bank's money and paying a little interest back to them. Question?
So the 2 paving equipment for streets and the diggers for the electrical department?
That is correct. Yeah, we have a paver and a compactor that is for public works. And then we also have the digger that will be used for setting power poles.
Okay.
You said 4 pieces of equipment.
Oh, just 3 pieces of equipment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2 for the public works and 1 for the power department.
With that said, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve a lease purchase with Zions Bank Corp. to purchase equipment for the Public Works Department and the Power Department in the amount of $400,227.
You didn't want to go through that whole thing line by line, the contract?
I browsed it.
We have a motion for approval by Councilman Belliston. You have a second.
Second,
Second by Councilman, I'm having a
Ward.
Ward, thank you. The face was there, the name wasn't.
Very good.
Thank you, Councilman Ward.
Ward, aye. Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ellis and I.
Turek, aye. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I apologize, Councilman Ward.
Not a
I will
problem.
never forget again the next time I need that.
Anyone is welcome to feel free to forget my name anytime they need.
Item 7, ordinances. Our first item on the ordinances was a continuation to approve an ordinance for a zone change request Z-18-14. That has been withdrawn. The application has been withdrawn, so we have no need to address that. Item 7B is a consideration to approve an ordinance to approve the general plan amendment G-18-05 to change the land use designation from LD low density to MD medium density to allow a 2-unit duplex on each of the lots located at the intersection of Washington Dam Road and Washington Fields Road. Applicant Matthew and Jeremy Green. This was an item that we had our public hearing on 2 weeks ago and is now back here for council's action. This again is the general plan change. Are there any questions? Kathy's here tonight. We can address
It's
any.
not a general plan change, is it?
Yes. Consider approving the general plan. Yeah, so it's a change of general plan.
Means we get to talk about this more.
Yes.
Later.
So this is the beginning of the process.
Right.
So any questions from the council? If not, I'll look for a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the ordinance to approve a general plan amendment G-18-05. Change the land use designation from low density to medium density to allow 3 2-unit duplexes on the lots.
Okay, motion by Councilman Belliston for approval. You have a second?
Second,
Second by Councilman Clough.
just a
By
quick
Williams is-
discussion
yeah,
on
I was gonna
this.
say.
A couple of things as I've looked through this, as I've gone out and I've seen the property again, and weighing heavily what a lot of people brought into the public forum. I appreciate the concerns about its appearance and its structure and its function. Considering the outlying pressures on this property, I really appreciate that the developers are trying to at least make this look like a single family residence, but also trying to find a way which they can develop the property, because as is, it's really kind of hard to see it become anything. So I appreciate the innovation that was brought forward, plus the concerns. Seeing that it's kind of got a lot of pressures on it, it really is kind of hard to see it become really about anything. It's other than what they proposed. And so I do appreciate this being brought forward as something for us to consider and weigh to its value to the adjacent neighbors, but also the overall value to the community. I just think one of the discussions that I had was mostly about the safety, but I really didn't see much of a thing of no matter what we put there, the safety seems pretty much will stagnant whatever goes there. So I just wanted to bring that up as I've gone back and looked through it. I feel like it's really considered a lot of the overall impacts, even though it may not be ideal to some citizens. I feel like it does consider the overall best possible scenario for them.
Then we talked about a number of things with this, but this is just general plans. We don't want to attach anything on that to this.
Correct. There'll be another public process as we go through a zone change with it.
Well, I think it'll be a nice improvement in that area. I think it'll help a spot that's kind of been a problem area there. So, Ward, well, I guess
Yeah,
I'll let you.
go ahead with the vote.
Ward, aye.
Cleft, aye.
I agree with your remarks. Granger, aye.
Ellison, aye.
Turek, aye. Passes. Item 8, a public hearing. This is a second public hearing for consideration to approve a zone change request Z-18-15 to change the zoning designation from agricultural 20 A20 to planned unit residential PUR zone. The request is located at approximately 1800 South Washington Fields Road. We are going to speak in just a minute. She's doing a presentation right now, and then we'll open it up to the public.
We're the government. We don't do anything fast.
After the 2 weeks holdover was completed,
This-
the applicant
yeah.
asked,
Oh, okay, you're going to recap us? Is that what you're doing?
I
All
am.
right.
and then I'm going to add a paragraph to what you
Okay.
said.
I was going to say, just a minute. We are a public hearing stage. We're not. So,
Yeah. Okay, the applicant asked for an opportunity to have a second public hearing on the proposed project, but with the changes requested by the planning commissioners. The city council agreed to the request. The date was then set for December 12th, 2018. The applicant will present the updated version of the proposed planned unit development. The planning commission, by a vote of 4-1, recommended denial for Z-18-14 for the zone change request from residential agricultural to acre minimum to the proposed planned unit development, residential planned unit development, commercial planned unit development, with request for the single-family residential, multifamily residential, and commercial development standards onto the city council based on the following reasons for denial. First of all, the density is too high, would like 8 to 10 units less, that the road cross-sections don't meet the city standards. The 20% landscape shown needs justification with an exhibit, and that there isn't enough amenities for the townhome area. Commissioner Coates also stated that he had other concerns, but these were the 4 reasons for his denial. At this time, I think that the applicant can present the changes to you better than I can. So if you're okay with that, I'll just turn that over to him.
okay. We'll go ahead and invite the applicant to come forward if you'd like to present the new updated plan.
Good evening, council, men and women. Sean Sullivan, owner developer of the Heritage Place project.
I compliment you on your height, but I wonder if you could bring,
Yeah, there we go.
there's some of the folks in the back have trouble hearing us.
All right, let me know if you can't hear.
I also compliment you on your haircut.
Yeah, likewise. You good looking haircuts up there. First of all, I just wanted to take just a quick minute and want to apologize to both the Planning Commission and council members. I know we feel like we maybe got the wrong impression on the way the Planning Commission was handled. We went through the Planning Commission and they had their suggestions that they made to us, and we had full intentions to make those changes before our council meeting. And then we asked to be tabled because we didn't have time to make all those changes, and it was completely our fault that we didn't show up to that meeting because we were hoping we asked for it to be tabled, but that was our fault. And again, I just wanted to apologize to the council for that. A quick history lesson. We brought this project. It's almost been over a year and a half. We brought it in for just straight zoning, just single family residential, and council asked us to pause the project and go back and present this as a PUD, which with the way it was presented, we thought that was a great idea. We do have a special piece of land here, and we know that we really need to make this piece of land, the project, something equally as special. That being said, we've met with staff, planning, took Planning Commission's recommendations, many council members' recommendations, and we feel like we've created something very special for Washington City. Jumping real quick, back to the items Planning Commission asked us to make. She asked me to explain those. So let me do that real quick. All right, we had there was eight items that we talked about. We've made all the recommendations that planning asked us to. So we've made all our streets public streets that meet the city's guidelines. The cross sections all meet city standards. They asked us to widen and cut some internal trails, which we did. The view corridor, there's actually, do you mind if you put the landscape plan up? Oh, like that. So they also asked us to open up the corridor into our townhome amenity where we have a park. We almost doubled the size of that amenity after meeting with Planning Commission, and we opened that up, putting some parking on that south side. So it kind of opens up that view corridor into that park amenity area. And then we also split it into two. So we have a nice grassed area in there with some shade trees, benches, and then we have our I don't know if I can zoom in there, the playground area right there. So that's the area that was talking about. And then part of those corridors they asked us to make a little bigger was those paths around the perimeter inside of that the park area. Pod 3, again, they said need more amenities, so we put in that playground, then obviously made that much larger. Lots 1 through 14, they asked us to make these more like what's across the street, which was no problem at all, to make a 20-foot front yard setback, which we did. Reduced density in Pod 3. They asked us to remove approximately 8 to 10 units, and we ended up losing about 5 units. We felt like that accomplished what they asked as far as making that amenity bigger and more open, but we didn't lose the 8 to 10. We lost 5 units. And then they also asked us for a 20% landscape to show the 20% justification with an exhibit. And got that here. Catch up with me. There was actually 9 items that Planning Commission asked us to change. The 9th we didn't list on here because it was no parking signs, but where we went to public streets, that wasn't necessary anyway. So they're all public streets now. Anyways, and pull this exhibit up. So, trying to find the table here. Oh, you want me to just pull it up in here? I might be able to from the. Okay, here we go. I've got it here on my hard copy, but I couldn't find it in the digital. Right here, we're showing our common area open space is well over 20%. So this exhibit actually shows that. And so that was the planning's recommendations. And they were great recommendations. We took heed in those, and we made all of those. With exception, we didn't lose 8 to 10 units. We lost 5 units. That being said, so where the project is at, let me actually go back to our landscape plan. This one I think encompasses the best. So we have a 47-acre PUD project that we are asking for approval on. We have, just run through real quick. We've got 51 single-family building lots. We've got 33, which we're calling our garden homes, which are very similar to the homes that we built on the single-family. The lots are just a little bit smaller, lending towards a more affordable product. And then we've got 95 of our townhome units here. And what we've done, going back to making this project special, is we wanted to make this very livable yet affordable. So a few ways to accomplish this is we put a trail system. We've got a little exhibit here that I think is very helpful, because we want this to be walkable. We want all the neighbors, we want to encourage people to get out and talk to each other, go to these parks that we put in here. Zoom in here. So the red lines outline our sidewalks and our trails. So everything is connected, even around to the access point to our Nyson Hill. And we want to encourage people to use these amenities that we've created. We have 2 almost acre parks, pocket parks in here. We've got this one here. It will have, I've actually got a better exhibit of that one. I apologize. It's just taking a second to focus in. This will be a grassed area with shade trees and several benches scattered throughout, with some parking if people want to drive over to this area. And I've included this picture here because it's really pretty. I mean, up against that rocky outcropping, we're gonna have grass up to there, and we'll put some shade trees there. We want people to use these amenities, so they'll be able to walk through here and access this trail system that goes right past that rocky outcropping. It'll come around to our Nyson Hill access point. That's one of our amenities. The other amenity that we have in this project is this common pool area. What you want to do very nice, have some good shade structures, bathrooms, something where the community can come do formal, informal gatherings. And then our next one, in here. Oh, you can see it on this map right here. So we've got this playground area and then another grassy area. And these 2 parks are almost an acre, so I mean they're pretty good sized areas. So that's one thing we've done that we feel like, with help from the council, planning commission staff, that we've been able to take what we originally set out to just do a straight zone and do something that is special, and it's going to be a project that's both affordable for many people. With our townhomes, our garden homes, and our single families, we got a few different product points in there. Yet with our densities we're asked for, it allows us to do a really nice project with the amenities. We're able to put money into those to do them right. We have tree-lined streets throughout the project and planter strip, except for this one section right here along that hillside. That's the only area we do not have sidewalk on both sides of tree-lined streets and sidewalk. Other than that, everywhere has the tree-lined streets. We feel like at this point we've done the best project that we can do, given what this land offers us, to make it both affordable and again livable, walkable. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'd just like to say.
Come on up to the microphone and give us your name.
Bill Papanikolas, one of the co-developers. And we just appreciate the opportunity to do this development. We've done a number of developments in the area. All have been first rate. We are excited about this thing. And I think we have the exact same objectives as you, as the community, as the neighbors, which is develop an excellent project that everybody can be proud of. We spent a year and a half of time, effort, putting together the very best project we can come up with. And we're quite proud of where we are, to be honest with you. We're excited about get going on it. We did reduce the commercial area from 10 acres on the general plan to 3.5 acres and moved it to the corner, which we think is more appropriate both for the size of the commercial and the location to make it a successful project. So that down zone we think was important for the overall project to make it work, both for us and for the community, to make it work better. So we're just excited about doing. We've pushed the townhomes off of Washington Fields Road 35 feet at a minimum. The 20-foot requirement is the normal setback. We've gone at 35 feet. So we've pushed them back, which was asked us to do by the Planning Commission. All of the townhomes have large backyards. I'd say there's no project in the area that's going to be as nice as this, with all the amenities, with the size of the parks, with the open space, with the playgrounds, with the 10 acres of Nyson Field, Nyson Hill, which is a part of this project, and an amenity and a recreational facility, a significant open space, which the general plan, as you well know, wants preserved in Washington County, and we're glad to do that. So we believe we've gone above and beyond what's been asked of us in terms of a PUD, and we're excited about it, and we certainly hope you will approve what we've submitted. And I'll turn it back to Sean if there's any more to go through.
Do you have any questions that I can address?
Sean, just one
Council?
question. I've got, well, a couple.
Uh-huh.
On the, against the hill,
Yes.
what would be the possibilities of getting a trail system along that hill that ties into that bottom part? So you've got people that could come over the base of the hill and then get to that park area without having to go down the streets and basically I'll be on those streets.
Sure. No, that's a
Per
very
se,
good,
and
that's a very good suggestion. We have looked at doing that. So those hash lines, there's a pretty good step right there in that hillside. And that's something we could go back and look at doing.
I don't know that we would, at least my thought is it doesn't need to be a sidewalk, but if we could get a
A path.
trail system,
Sure.
even if it's, yeah, nice. Yeah, it doesn't have to be concrete. It's something that could be passable for people to get to that park. I think it would be more inviting for them to utilize that park space, these that are up in the upper end, if they can get there without having to zig and zag and.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So one thing we're looking at doing along that side is where that hillside does come down. We've talked to Public Works about doing a kind of a trough right there next to that road. But maybe we could encompass maybe a walking path
something
with
as
that
part of
trough.
that.
When it's dry, they can walk through it to get over. I think that's a great suggestion we could look at.
One of the things that-
Zuckerberg and Canal Pike
Yeah.
area, so they use their canals to.
My other question is HOA wise, what's the intention? And because you have such diversity in product there, are you going to have HOAs for each type of product?
Right now, our plan is to have one HOA for everybody. So everybody's gonna have access to all the amenities. So the people who live in the single family residence or the towns can all use the pool. They can all use the parks throughout the project. The reason we want everybody to enjoy or to pay for those is because it brings the cost down. our main goal, and one great recommendation was to make all of our streets public, was to keep our HOA low. So we're hoping to keep our HOA around that $69 or less. We found that that's an affordable range for people that will benefit from these amenities.
I just know we've had experience with some others that, especially in one like this, I'm assuming in your apartments, you're going to have maintenance, land maintenance, whatnot, where single family homes may not. So all of a sudden you have those in the home saying, why am I paying for their lawns to be mowed?
Yes,
And,
correct. So that's a great point. So one thing we're doing our plan right now is to have the HOA maintain everybody's front yard.
Oh.
So even in the single family residence, that'll be included in part of our package.
I would just like to add a few things on with Councilman Turek. Is I love the preservation of that hillside. And I am perfectly fine with just a little kind of native trail that just keeps people off the roads, but lets them enjoy the hallmark of one of the parts of that development. With this being such a celebrated, wonderful development for what you've done, and I do commend you for the work that you've done and improvements. We appreciate that. One thing that will always be a loss is to the people who live nearby. Regardless if it was the Taj Mahal or gold-plated roads, there's some things that we missed, and it's one of those things that alters the identity of the area. And so any little thing, I think, to make it to where we can enjoy the few remaining parts that are there, one for the safety, but two for the nostalgia, I think it would be just a good at will thing to just kind of show and move forward.
I agree. We really do want to preserve that hillside. And even with the name of our project, the Heritage Place, we want to preserve the heritage. And if we can incorporate things in our landscape, eventually when we do something like commercial land, if we can incorporate something that is farm related, heritage of Washington Fields.
Mm-hmm.
And on the corner, we have some landscape that has a tractor, something that has that. We don't know what we're going to do on that corner yet, but we do want to keep that theme to our project wherever we can.
Okay.
We're obviously not at the point yet where we'll look at the commercial area, but if you would zoom over to that for just a minute. You've got 3 apartment buildings right behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to suggest that you may be the last ones that you build in case that commercial area needs to be slightly larger, or you don't choose to have them that close to the commercial area. I can see that you've buffered it with some trees and things, but still it's a significantly smaller commercial area. It is on a busy corner, which we've talked about quite a bit. But I'd build those last. I'm not going to require it. I'd just say build them last and see if that's really what you want there.
Yeah, that's very, very good feedback.
I appreciate your consideration about the larger backyards next to the road. It creates a sound barrier for those people living there, but also creates an opportunity for them to have family space, which a lot of places like that might not have, so that they actually can have children and a space for children, a safe place for them. So appreciate your work. I know that some of the members of the Planning Commission are here, so as we go to opening hearing, we didn't send it back to them because we don't send it back to them. It's our job, but there have been a lot of changes based on their hard work and recommendations that they may or may not choose to remark to.
I understand that you guys granted some access easement to the lots there along Washington Dam Road up through the project to the north.
So the one that was right before us?
Yeah, correct.
There is an existing egress easement right here. We haven't talked to them about that. I'm not saying that we wouldn't work something out with them, but there is an existing easement there that you can kind of see in that hashed area.
No, I understand, but
on
wasn't there
this
some
north
access
side?
on the north side that
Oh,
was, it's not on that.
It is. So we do have an easement that goes all the way through into Heritage Place.
I just wanted to say I appreciate you doing that for them. I know it's a big deal for them and for the homes that are going to go in there. And so I appreciate that you guys did that.
Yeah.
So.
No, I read a riveting traffic study on this.
Enjoy that. Some good reading.
But for a public record, there's a really important part that I think needs to be discussed, and I'd love to have this verified from your point of view. On page 2, we went through and listed what's going to be put in, and it says this project will include 3.45 acres of commercial development in the southeast corner of the project adjacent to Washington Fields Road, 2000 South. At this time, specific commercial tenants have not been identified for the project. But for the purpose of the traffic study, we assumed a gas station with 8 fueling stations, a 3,500 square foot fast food restaurant with a drive-through, and up to 22,000 square feet of general retail space. Just for me to understand better, what was the purpose of proposing such a conglomerate of many different commercial options in that point for this traffic study?
You know what? Bob can probably, that's nothing to do with us. We don't have any tenants in mind.
I'm aware. I'm not
I'll
trying to
tell you
say,
why I did it on the last one I did is.
but I'd just like to hear from their point of view, and then just as a discussion within the council for fair discussion.
Appreciate your time, Bob Hermanson with Bush and Gudgel. Great question. The reason that we did this is that those uses are the largest chip generators possible. So this is worst case scenario for that size of piece of property. Those two uses are it. This is maximum uses. Since we didn't know, we planned worst case scenario, and I told him to plan it so that we were conservative as possible. Where are we at?
So as a chip generator, you're talking that in the event you plan for something else, it will be less than what's proposed in here.
Correct.
And that makes it to where you may not have to do the traffic study in the future because you're going highest possible demand, and anything else would be a drop down from there.
Yep.
Okay, that was just what I wanted to verify in this.
It has nothing to do with what's actually planned or anything else.
Which I appreciate.
Literally
It
just-
articulates that clearly have not been identified, but that's good.
Yeah, with commercial, we do intend obviously to come back. We're gonna have to ask you guys for approval on whatever tenants we have nothing in mind at this point. We haven't explored any options.
Okay.
So that was just someday, I think, as he explained.
Any other questions for clarification from the applicants at this point?
This commercial right now, is this a neighborhood zoning commercial? Are there some time frames associated within the neighborhood zoning commercial where what things can be done at different hours? Because when I read through the zoning, I thought there's a particular cutoff in hours, like 11 o'clock and 7 a.m. I believe they cannot go beyond 11 o'clock and can't start operations before 7. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
'Cause
Have
as
to
I-
look back in neighborhood commercial.
That's why I was double checking, as I went through and read another riveting part of our residential commercial. I mean, I feel all riveted. But I just wanted to verify a few of the parameters of what would be able to operate and also what is the concept of hours, because that's been a very common question fielded to me as a council member of, well, what's going to go there? First and foremost, we don't know what's going over there. Second, but at least what is the parameters of anything that does go in there? And I would like to verify time if that is a constraint with anything that does go in.
We will certainly have lots of time to talk about those concerns.
Yeah,
So not relevant at this time.
Well, yeah, as it comes forward, obviously, I can see it being somewhat relevant for the mere fact you're creating that commercial parcel with this application.
Right.
You do create that. So it does have some relevance, obviously, but as far as, I mean, our ordinance is our ordinance. And so it wouldn't matter whether it's there or whether it's. where
Well,
that
I just wanted to
commercial
verify
lies.
if that is one of the constraints of this particular
Yeah.
commercial, if the hours are, because
Well, the
just wanted to
city has
verify.
the city has a noise ordinance. The general plan wouldn't specify quiet hours and whatnot, and this right
when I
now
read
is
it,
the
it
general
did.
plan.
That's why I wanted to double check.
Yeah, what he's
because-
saying is
No.
if this zoning, by passing this PUD, you create the zone. And so
Right.
he's saying, does that, with that zoning, then inherit those restrictions on that property? I
Just
think that's
making
what he's
sure,
trying to
because
clarify.
I can see some misunderstanding on the council. I just wanted to clarify, when I read neighborhood commercial, it was 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah.
are the hours of operation at max, which you can
I
operate.
don't recall that exactly. I know that I've always looked at uses rather than hours of operation.
It's one of those things
Because
unique to this
usually the-
use, though.
Yeah, the type of uses.
And
that-
one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up, not to be picky, but just verifying, because this was a significant concern to people neighboring, that if it is already handled within the ordinance and within what we have in this particular zoning, it's just an assurance that we understand it is within it. And I just wanted the clarification, make sure that
Yeah, we
I'm
can certainly
correct.
get that. I mean, obviously, after our public hearing, we've got a 2-week holdover tonight.
Okay,
So we'll have some time to field that.
thank you.
Well, I just pulled up commercial zones for community commercial, which is your neighborhood commercial, and it's not spelling
There's no
out
hours
quiet
of
hours,
operation.
but where it's a custom zone, it's PUD and custom zone. I mean, it can be established at the zoning.
Okay.
Or at the point in time that project is sold.
Thank you.
So with this being a public hearing, what I'll do is allow the public to come forward. We'll hold the applicants to come back at the end again and answer any questions or concerns that the public may bring forward. with that. So with that being said, I will open the public hearing to our public. Would ask them that they would keep their comments to concise and concerns, and basically come forward one time, so kind of have your thoughts together. We don't want to turn this into a rebuttal process of back and forth, address the council as you come forward. So with that, we'll open the public hearing to anyone who'd like to speak.
My name is Lenny Jones. I live 489 East Stanley Circle, across the street from the commercial piece. I want to pose a question to the council about the commercial property. I'm obviously, well, you well know that we've been fighting this for probably 10 years now, any commercial in that area. And it's frustrating to me that this continues to come up, but it is what it is. But my concern is with a commercial property, what is it that the council is going to do to protect the homeowners that exist there? In other words, how do your ordinances, are they adequate to protect us from getting a horrible business in there?
Well, that's why we pushed it into a PUD as opposed to a straight zone. If it was straight zone and somebody wanted to come in, and they can kind of force it down your throat, where if it's a PUD, we can look at it and say, how do we mitigate the concerns?
Okay.
And force the applicant to change the project to mitigate those concerns.
And that discussion will be public too, so there will be opportunity for input.
Well, I understand that, but years ago in Mesquite, when they had the porn shop happen, it was disguised as an office building, right? An office supply company. And then whatever happened. And then we spent years picketing and everything else. But my concern is I don't feel that there's protection there, because the map that was sent out doesn't say PUD commercial. It says flat out commercial.
No, it's
It's a PUD commercial.
That's what they're coming in for. They're coming in at the whole 34 acres as PUD. That's just the PUD commercial portion of it.
Okay.
So let me address kind of conceptually what some of your concern. There's a lot of concern about a C-store going there, a gas station going there. If it was straight zone, a gas station can force their way onto the property. If it's under the PUD, we can say, well, you know what, we don't feel it. Even though it's commercial, we don't feel a gas station works there. Or we could do things like they did down at Sun River, where if you go down there, the Terribles is turned backwards to the street. The pumps and the light and everything is the opposite side of, where the street is, which would be on the opposite side of the building from where your house is. I use that as an example. I'm not saying that they're trying to bring that in. I just, when it comes in under that application, there's a lot of things that could be done to mitigate impact to you and your neighbors.
Okay.
One other thing just to add with that, I'd like to add is, what would the council do to help you? I know a lot of concern was over the amount of acreage, significantly reducing the amount of acreage that was proposed into a smaller commercial, limits the type of commercial that can go in there.
Right.
I know originally there was concerns of big box stores. This time there's not even an option for that due to the overall size. So keeping in mind that there have been major efforts discussing with the developer in the process so far to really address a lot of the concerns that were at play. So if I was a resident next to there, seeing how this has changed, I would hope to be recognized that the overall size and scope of the commercial has changed significantly. I hope that's recognized.
Oh,
so
we
far
recognize
too.
that. We recognize all of it.
Okay.
It's understandable. But as Berg Staley noted weeks ago in one of the planning commission meetings, he says, put the commercial down by the farm, let people build around it, instead of forcing it down people's throats in this scenario, where people have been there I've been in my home for 27 years, and now it's coming down my throat that there's commercial right across the street. And you can say what you want about placement. The impact, the light impact on my home is going to increase. In other words, there's going to be lights up shining in my backyard all the time, unless I'm able to put up a 15-foot wall. And
I don't know that that's necessarily the case. And we're not looking at street lights right now, but
I'm not talking about street lights. I'm talking about the commercial lights that would be in that parcel.
I understand what you're talking about, but there's no specific application in front of us to look at it and say, okay, how do we mitigate the light impacts to you? I mean, when this all came down, on the general plan. I know there's a lot of opposition to commercial, and I know there's a lot of concern with me because there are a lot of uses of commercial that I just don't see as being offensive uses for the area, for the corner, for a neighborhood there. You know, there was I'll bring it up, there was a dance studio that was looking at coming down there to service the kids, to, you know, to teach them dance. They ended up going elsewhere. Like, that would be a great fit for a neighborhood commercial in the neighborhood, I think, you know. And I'm not trying to argue with you. I just,
I don't feel like you are.
there's some good uses that could go on that property. And so to have a small pod of neighborhood commercial, I'm excited to see what comes forward to want to go there.
Thank you.
But before you go though, and I take your point, I mean, it's almost worse not knowing what's going on there. If you kind of knew, you could plan and you could kind of decide. I do agree with the rest of the council that we feel more comfortable with the PUD because we get some input on how they do it. And I'm not sure if that point carried over. If even if it was something we could take steps to mitigate some of your concerns. But in order to do that, I want to make sure you mentioned a couple of things, but as far as your concerns about this, it would be light, noise, traffic. Anything else on your mind that you're concerned about in the property that's before us? You've mostly talked about the commercial. Anything about the residential or the other design of the property that you want to mention before you're done?
I don't have a problem with residential. If I had a problem with residential, don't have the right to live where I'm living, right? And you know, there is a lot. There's a big impact as far as traffic goes with the number of homes that are going in there, and I understand that the developer is working hard to try to give a wide range of homes for people that can afford different ranges of those homes. I'm really concerned about the traffic because one thing that you don't see in the map is as you make the turn onto 2000 South, there's an immediate left road on your left, Nichols Peak, I think, or Nichols Drive or something.
600 East.
Yeah, and so that immediate road, I don't know how that road's going to fit into the development, because there is no way on this green earth if that commercial is there, and even with all the house, let's assume that it was all residential, the amount of traffic that's going to be hitting that 200 plus cars or 300 plus cars is going to be hitting that area, that you're ever going to be able to cross and head to the west. There's no way. In fact, we're going to struggle even coming out of our subdivision, turning left. I'm okay at 7 o'clock in the morning, but I have left my home between 7:30 and 8, and I wait there between 5 and 8 minutes trying to get a break. It's going to require some changes, widening the road, giving us a turning lane. Something's got to happen there, but that one road concerns me because it's only, I think the distance of that road now probably is not within the ordinances of the distance between two intersections, because that road existed before they changed the Washington Fields Road.
You're east of this property?
I'm directly south.
You're south of this
south.
property. And you're turning, okay, I'm just turning.
So I come out of, well, I don't have a way to point it, but
Basically, right across where the.
I live right across where it says future commercial pod. Just, yeah, right there. During one of the planning commission meetings, they made someone made the comment, I don't recall who it was, made the comment that, well, we hope that they won't put up walls along there because nothing's worse than driving down a road that has all walls. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to put up a wall because I don't want to see the commercial there. I don't want to see all the mess that's going to be there. And I would imagine that on those homes that are the single family homes, 31 through 24, all the way up to 1, they're probably going to have a wall in the back of their yard because that's the style of what we do here.
You know, I made that comment. I didn't, not in the planning commission. If it got made in the planning commission, it was
Maybe,
somebody else.
I think,
but I made that comment at one
yeah.
point, and it wasn't to keep people from, you know, putting up walls for their yard. It was that I didn't want a wall just jammed up against the right of way that limits visibility and open space. I wanted that wall pulled, you know, 20 feet off the right of way or 20 feet off the street so that it felt more open, more like for example, as you drive up Green Springs Drive, those homes, they've got landscaping buffer and then the walls are 20, 25 feet off of the right of way.
But
So
you don't-
that was
you
the
don't
purpose
notice
for
them.
that comment.
Yeah, you don't notice them because of the buffer.
Pardon me?
I live there and I don't notice the walls.
Right.
Because
You
of
live
the
in
buffer.
Green Springs, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just more open feel, and that's
Yeah.
why I was trying to get.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, because of the width of the roads. In fact, my property line's 5 feet on the other side of my fence because of the easement that's there. I think it's well, there's a ditch there one
Yeah,
time.
just the old canal.
Right.
the old
Canal used to be
easement.
there. And so in reality, obviously my wall is going to be as close, it's going to be right where my fence is right now. And anyway,
You know, one thing with what you're saying, I do offer my, I don't know how to say this. No matter what's put there,
it's going to be hard.
I don't
Yeah.
know if, even if it was anything else, you'd probably put a wall up anyway, even if it was just residential. you
Oh,
know?
I'm confident I would. I don't
Yeah.
disagree with that.
And
It's-
I
I
completely
wouldn't be-
understand that what's being lost. And so I weigh that heavy and hear you out what you're saying.
I wouldn't be putting a wall up because it's residential. I'd be putting a wall up because I need the privacy. You know, the road is very busy. I wish there was a way that we could stop the trucks from using their Jake brakes in the middle of the night, because that happens all the time. And so anyway, it's something that's a bit frustrating.
Well, you know, we all have our thoughts about it. Sometimes I think about, okay, a dentist office would be great. And so would an ice cream parlor and a bakery. You know, it would service that community. You could
That would help the
enjoy-
dentist, the ice cream parlor, and the bakery would help the
No, I
dentist.
think they all fit together.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if you've seen the new creamery in Beaver where the cheese,
Yeah.
new cheese factory.
Ooh.
As I pulled into that, well, they've got a nice, it's a big kind of, I don't know, timbered, but a big silo kind of look to the side of it. As I pulled into that this last week, I told my wife that would look beautiful on that corner.
Oh, man.
Because it ties into the ambience of the
Farmish,
fields.
yeah.
Type thing. But anyway,
See, and that's the neat thing about.
we've detracted from where we were at.
It's
So
true.
let me pull it back where it needs to be.
Well, I think we pull it back this far. It's neighborhood commercial. People
Right.
aren't going to come across town to come to this place. It's not going to be a big box store. It's neighborhood commercial.
Right.
So what does the neighborhood, what would they
Want, drive,
and enjoy? You know, and I think those are all questions that'll get asked in the course of everything that continues to occur. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Jones, one thing that we probably can assure you is the newest guy was Steve Snow's law firm 30 years ago when I got down here and the Mesquite bookstore was in full operation. Washington was the first city to pass a sexually oriented business ordinance, which now pretty much prevents that from showing up in your neighborhood. Has technology already probably pushed it out of the way anyway, but we do have one. So we're pretty sure at least that, having been the one that drafted that for about 6 months, there won't be a sexually oriented business there anyway.
Anyone else that would like to come forward and speak?
Mike Tate. I live on 2020 Franklin, right across the street, next to Brother Jones. Lenny, I should say, not Brett, brother. A couple concerns. Cost of living of these houses. What is the price range of the single dwelling? What is the cost range of the gardens? And what is the cost range of the rental units? I don't understand. Originally, when this was formatted to us, it was going to be affordable housing. I'm just curious to see how this is going to be affordable housing and where that's fitting in with the adjustments that are being made here now. It looks like they've made more single housing developments. So if anybody could answer these questions, I'd like to find out what the cost of these developments.
Well, we're going to bring them back to the tail end to answer those types of questions.
Okay,
Do you
well,
remember where that came up in the affordable housing? 'Cause
originally some of the very first, some of the initial meetings that we
planning
had here,
commission, or?
it was mentioned as affordable housing. Some of those apartments, and now I'm curious to see if we've just dropped the affordable housing aspect of this all, because I don't know what rent's going to be. And the other aspect is you got $300,000 to $350,000 single dwelling houses on one side of the neighborhood, where you have rentals on the other side of the neighborhood, and they're not concerned about HOAs. They're not concerned about cars. How many cars are going to be in an apartment? They don't have all the room that they need to have access for car parkage, for other vehicles that they might have to be required that people have in storage, or facility trailers, or other things that they might need or required to have. Now, a single family, they might be able to make a bigger driveway, 3-car garage, depends on the development of the home or the driveway. But people in rental units don't have that luxury of making a 3-car access garage. And so they're going to be limited. So these are some of the questions I have, and also the price range of these apartments. Now, as you can see on the map, we don't have facilities for like an RV park to put some of this stuff in there. I mean, they're more worried about trees and walk space. If this was in northern Utah, this would never pass because they don't have the snow removal facilities that they have to have in northern Utah, where they can run a snowplow down the street and still be able to have cars parked on the road. Are they going to have cars parked on the road in front of these? I'm hoping that's not the case. So these are some of the questions I have. Again, prices of the houses, prices of the garden homes, anywhere between $250,000. I don't know what the prices of the apartment's going to be, but when they first sold this to us, it was sold to us as affordable housing. And I'll leave with those questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm short. I hope you appreciate that. My name is Glenn McClellan. My concern comes in, I live on 503 East Case Circle, which is just south of this proposed thing. Like Lenny Jones said, we've been here 10 years. I've been here 21 years. We keep coming back to this. Why can't we just mitigate no commercial? You approve commercial 1.3 miles down the road. We have it 1.4 miles over at Lynn's, and we have it 1.8 miles up to Walmart. And you got the damn road that there's plenty of commercial space. Why do we continue to insist on a commercial area in this intersection? And now you're proposing, low income housing with, like Mr. Tate just said, multiple cars, the traffic, the congestion, the right of way. And I can guarantee you that does not match what's legal for the city in that amount of space between that intersection coming in and out, a right-hand turn only. This is the same thing we had on the other side, on the south side, which I called on the other day to see what the property rate was on for the south side. And they said, oh, it's $780,000 because it's commercial. I said, like, heck it is. He says, oh no, you guys have already pretty much pre-approved it. We're just going through the process. So why do we keep coming back? Why can't we, where's the plan for just housing? We want a community that people can get around and say hi to each other. When I'm not going anybody across the street behind that. If I see them outside right there, that's fine. The wall setting back, I think a lot of things they're doing are great, but there is absolutely no need for commercial. Not on this corner, not on the corner south of it. It can be perfectly well planned for a community to preserve what you guys say, what the Washington Fields is about. Throwing commercial in the middle, it does not, it's not conducive to what is going on in this area. We got walls onto the northeast, which in the Desert Shadows area, and I don't really care about the walls. I don't, not big walls, it looks pretty. I don't mind, honestly, the residential, but why do we continue to come back to commercial? There is not that much tax base in that amount of commercial area to justify what we're doing here. I really don't understand that. There's plenty of commercials everywhere else. Fix this problem you guys got across the street down right here. There's plenty of commercial up here on Telegraph. There's lots of places to go. Okay, we just the traffic study, you don't even have any kind of impact you're gonna have. You said 95 of these homes, of these residents, 95, mount that into there between those two intersections and in and out, coming right across the street from where we live. 51 homes, what do you say, 40 something of the cottages? I mean, that's a lot of traffic right in one intersection in a hurry. I know it's going to take some time to build, but where's the plan that shows all residential, no commercial? Because what if this doesn't get approved? What is it? Because basically what you're saying is, yeah, this is a go. We're good with commercial, and we're not even mitigating not having commercial.
Well, quite frankly, the guy that owns the property and the guy that currently owns the property made the request.
I understand.
I mean, it's not, we didn't go proactively saying.
No,
hey,
I'm not saying you did.
know.
I'm saying, why are we mitigating? Why don't we have a plan that shows, hey, you know what? We don't really need commercial there. We got plenty of commercial coming up on exit 13, tons of it. There's more coming. You guys know that. I know that. There's more coming out on Warner Valley. That's in Washington. I know a lot of the stuff that's going on. There's plenty of commercial. We really don't need the commercial. I just don't understand where's the plan for non-commercial, and why are we not building just single-family homes that may be even affordable? Because everywhere I've ever been, right behind Pineview High School, over in Dixie, just what comes with that is a lot of trouble. You can go right up on 450 North, right in St. George, right behind Pineview High School. The amount of traffic, people are parked all over the roads. It's chaotic. Okay, and it's not conducive to what the fields are, what it represents, what we moved here for. And like you said, I feel like we're getting this shoved down our throat, and especially this commercial, where there's absolutely no need. We have plenty of commercial. Again, as I said again before, we can't possibly be that lazy. 1.5 miles is not that far. There's a lot of people that walk that to work. And we've got Lynn's, you've got Smith's now, you've got Panda, you've got everything coming right over there. You got it coming in on the Warner Valley exit. We got everybody moving out there. You got exit 13. We've got right here in St. George, right here in Washington, right off Telegraph. I just don't understand, where's the plan to show no commercial? Whether required or not, why are we even looking at that? I understand that they requested it. That's what they're, and we're just saying.
That's what the plan is what the request is. That's what
Okay, and I'm
hearing
just
is
saying,
what that plan is.
let's look at not. We would love to have homes. And we know the fields are going to go. But can we look at it without commercial? That's my question.
That's what
I'm
they've
just
asked for.
Proposed, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mary Ann Jones. I have a question in regards to, I know that it's PUD commercial. One of my concerns is that is planned in the beginning, right? As something is brought to the council. We all know that all businesses don't stay in the same location forever. New businesses come in. What is the plan after a building is already met? Do they have to come back to the planning commission to see what?
Use. It depends on if they're changing use.
Okay.
If they put in, say, let's say they put in a building with 5 tenants that are a small retail use, and then they come in and say, well, we want to change one of these into a medical use. They have to come back through a process to change the use. I mean, you can have a dress shop and then you can have a t-shirt shop go in the same place. That doesn't change the use, it changes the business. But if they're going to change the use or change, what's done there, then it has to come back through.
And how stringent is that? Is like if, say, for instance, a bakery or, whatever, and it switched over to a smoke shop, is that different enough use, office supply to a smoke shop, something along that realm that it may still fit within the building parameters, but be something that may not be as
Sounds different to
tolerated?
me.
Huh?
Sounds different to me.
Yeah, I'd probably defer that one to Drew because he understands
Well,
more.
I can tell you, it will not be a smoke shop.
That's
Because
already
we
been
have an
capped
ordinance
and
in town that
limited.
does not allow any more of those in, so.
Just to make
Well, but you know what I mean,
Yeah,
something
I
that
can
is not.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I was just trying to put,
No.
the differences of
Yeah,
what could go in
and
there
some
and
of that
something
probably
that's
is
not.
kind of splitting hairs depending on what it would be. If it's a significant difference, obviously, we can say, obviously it would come back. Some of that's why we have our zoning and planning peoples to make those hair splitting to say, it really fits the letter of the law.
Well, maybe this is to kind of to make sure I'm understanding this right. With everything that's been said, is as long as what's been approved at this first stage is the same use, like Councilman Bellison said, it would just be a change of business. That would be a similar business, and so that's just what's in protection within the zoning as it is right now, and whatever it would be at this first stage.
Well, quite frankly, no, given the community in the fields, If they put a smoke shop there, it'd probably go out of business. Okay. You know, you're going to determine what kinds of things go into neighborhood commercial. Even all those examples we just heard of commercial were not neighborhood commercial examples. Okay. And so if there's something the community would use, then the business might want to go in there. If it's something the community wouldn't embrace, they'd go up belly up. No, just it's neighborhood commercial. You're the ones that'll determine what kinds of things would best reflect something the community would want to use. Because if you don't patronize it, it's done. It's done.
Well, I would go on record that I am against the commercial altogether, but I
Got
did
it.
have that
No,
concern
good
if
question.
it was
You
going
know,
in there.
there's a project on 3000 East, when you go down a Little Valley, I think it's 3000, it goes past George Washington Academy there, right? If you follow that down right in the heart of Little Valley, there's a 3.5 acre commercial project. They got a pizza place that's going in there. It's small commercial. There's not, you know, that's probably about as close to, you know, a similar product that these folks are requesting. So I don't know if they're framing it yet, but you certainly the parking lot's in, you can see, you know, kind of what the project's going to end up being.
It's significant that we're talking about 3 acres instead of 10 acres. I mean, it's really significant for what would go in there.
So,
No, my house is getting it. Yeah.
so I would just mention that probably the council, just for some general guidance, our neighborhood commercial typically, not in a PUD necessarily, but typically would include anything composed of a C1 or an AP, which is administrative professional. So there's you can look at the zoning code. I would imagine that the council, without predicting what the council will do when those uses come forward, probably look fairly closely at those guidelines to help them determine when, you know, if it fits or if it doesn't. So administrative professional and things like dental offices and things that we talked about there. And then even the general plan indicates with the neighborhood commercial, these are small commercial uses catering to the surrounding neighborhoods. So I know you're kind of looking for some guidelines, and that's kind of probably some guidelines. I realize that with the PUDs, it's a lot more fluid because they get the opportunity to kind of work, but I would imagine that the guidelines kind of go along.
And there was something brought up too about moving any walls a certain number of feet off of property lines. I don't know if that was just general for this
That was just
property
a,
or
just a
just kind of
comment that was made.
Okay, all right, because I worried about that because you take 20 off of ours and that's right at the edge of our house.
No,
So
we're
it
not
takes away the
talking
whole
about
backyard.
No, you're good.
We're not talking about
Thank
changing
you.
your zoning at all.
Right. Okay, well, I
No.
didn't know because it talked about widening the roads, making sure that we had sidewalks on both sides and everything. And that does tend to encroach on.
And Ms. Jones, just for record, where do you live in relation to this overall plan?
See
Directly
that,
south.
that,
Right across the street from the south
Yeah.
side.
for the, just take that future word and right there's my,
All right.
my backyard.
Thank you.
Yes, we concur completely, yes.
With that, I'll say 49 East Sunny Circle. Gotcha.
Yes,
Apologize for not making that connection earlier.
no, you're good. Okay, thank you.
Was that supposed to be a public safety announcement about being careful about where you put your public, people scraping your private information and putting things together?
Yeah.
I'm way down. My name is Ida Jorgensen. I live on Meadow Lane. And before I leave this subject that we're talking about, the commercial, you know, we're talking about lights, we're talking about noise, but something you said made me think, you know, there can't be a 3-story building that can go in there. That simply doesn't fit with the surroundings. And I'm hoping that when we're taking notes and we're talking about commercial, that we're not going to be thinking about putting great big high office buildings
They're
in
not
there.
proposing that.
Okay. What I'd like to talk about is, do we know how many people will be living in that? You know, we have housing units. How many housing units will be going into that area?
Was that 180?
Yeah, just to double
And
check.
so that means that comes out to about what? So about 1,500 people?
Who knows?
Welcome to
Okay.
Southern Utah. I've got 8 in mind.
We average about 2.8 per household. That's the census.
Yeah. Oh, that seems a little low for Utah, but anyway, let me get back to the part that I want to talk about. When we're talking about, the thing that I'm really concerned about is the traffic, and it's that square that we're talking about there. And the thing that's been interesting, I really do appreciate listening to you because you've really been working on this and you're really giving us some good information. But how many exit roads are going to come out on Washington Fields Road between 2000 South and Dam Road?
One.
Has anybody ever,
With this project,
with this project?
one.
And where will it come out at?
Right across from the church.
Yeah, right up by the churches.
Okay, but that's really not true because, I mean, that's a major exit out, right? And where's the other?
Well,
major-
they've got 3. They've got one on 2000, one on Washington
Yeah, but
Fields Road,
she's
and
asking
one on-
about coming up Washington Fields Road, right?
Yeah, and I'm saying, well,
one.
which?
Yeah,
see,
there's
we
only
live- I
one.
live off from Washington Fields Road, and between Dam Road and 2000 South, we have, all the traffic comes from Dam Road, all the traffic, which is airport and all that commercial
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Then the street I live on, which is Meadow Lane. Then we have the 2 church houses. And then you come and they're talking about how many feet between, coming out and being able to turn and everything. We've got lights on Dam Road and we've got lights in 2000. You can't, if that is a main entrance out of that community, how many feet is that going to be from that little other project on the side of Nyson Hill, having zone changes, the little thin one? Okay, is there an exit there and then another exit on that side?
So you asked about this project. This project has one access right across from the church that's furthest away from you.
Right. And then
Right,
you've got
and then the-
access from that little.
There is that little access
Right,
that's
which is across
for those
from
couple of
my-
homes. But these people have also provided access for those homes to go north
Right,
and come out of
I-
Heritage Fields, which
we've been through
takes
that.
that traffic further
Yeah.
away from you.
Yeah,
But this project does not tie into that other.
No, but the way it ties in is how many feet are there between all of those exits on this tiny piece of Washington Fields Road? You cannot put a light in there where that major exit is. You've already got 2 lights here. I'm trying to get out of my driveway. I'm trying to get out on the street. And if I'm fighting the Dam Road, Washington traffic, and I'm fighting the little road across from me, and then the big exit here, and then we've got all the traffic coming from the high school and the airport and whatever, all that building up there. Can you see?
Yes, Ms.
I've
Jorgensen.
said this before. I said this is going to be the worst block in Washington County because there is so much traffic. And that little road just can't carry that.
I had that on my concerns as well. I have some questions from the traffic study, and when the applicant gets back up, we'll have them, I'll ask them some questions about how about that alignment and the spacing, and go through all that.
How are we going to go right or left?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't put another light in there. And I've come and he probably recognized me as a regular, but I'm begging, please do something with that because it's going to be awful. And then you have all that church traffic that comes. I mean, we've got about 3 major traffic things coming into that one little square place. And it seems like if there's a major exit coming out of that housing development, it should be on the side where the pink is or on the side somewhere
Well,
else.
there is access coming out of there to those directions.
Right.
So actually, there's 2 other accesses coming out down 2000 or
Yeah, they're not
Sandia.
all going to come out that
So
way.
nothing, everything that's
No.
not forcing out of there, that's the
No.
only one onto
But
Washington
it's the
Fields.
townhouses that will be a high density area coming out of there.
Well, but they can go the other directions too, depending on where they're trying to get to.
They can,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's, to me, it'll depend on where they're trying to go to. If they're coming up
Right.
into Washington, obviously they're going to come through that intersection. Probably if they're going to St. George, I would think that they would come
Yeah.
onto 2000 and work their way
Well,
down that way.
I think as all people that have bought their house and thought we're in a quiet area and we're going to retire and everything, this is really a shock. And as she was talking about, why are you having the commercial? I'm saying, why are you doing this? All these houses, you've got all that room up by Staley's, you've got all this open ground everywhere, and why are you dumping all these? Why are you putting all these people in this tiny little place on a tiny little road that's going to make everybody miserable? And it doesn't make sense. Even though you talk about it and you talk about it, it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem make sense. And why do we have to do it when there's no land shortage here?
Craig Coates with the Planning Commission and the Washington City residents. Kind of wanted to work through some of the numbers that we were working through on Planning Commission. I don't know if they've come up or not. Looking at this project overall, I like the project. There's some things that I think they've worked hard toward making the project that are a lot of our concerns. They've accomplished a lot of them. I think the biggest thing that they haven't accomplished is the density. And that's based off our current code for our PUD. Currently, our code, there's 33 acres on the site. The general plan has it as a low density, which is max 4 units. So 4 units in our code, it states that we can have area and fits, in the residential multifamily development under section C, number 3, it states, the city council determined by the city council, but in no case shall exceed a 25% dwelling unit per acre increase. So 25% is 5 dwelling units. That gets me to 166 units total for the project. Now with the Nyson Hill, I was also looking at that there's approximately 5 acres of land. I know there's 10 there, but I look at the east side as already being dedicated to the other subdivision. And in our landscape ordinance, it says for every acre of that land, you can use another dwelling unit, what got us to 171 units.
So, Craig,
So it's residential multifamily development.
I understand what part of where they're getting at, real quick. Just a second. I'm not seeing it anyway, but part of that is the conversion of commercial to residential.
Some of that, I agree with you.
And so that's where they're pulling some of that, some of the density from. So,
but I looked at it as a whole. It's still based on acreage on the general plan.
Areas designated as commercial on the land use map shall be considered as high density residential. So they're converting
5 acres of that to high density.
No, more than that.
6.5.
Yeah, 6.5 to high density.
And does that say that? I just didn't know.
That says that in our commercial PUD.
Okay. Well, and that's why we recommended denials, because we weren't there yet with density. We looked at it as the units.
You guys recommended 8 to 10, right?
We recommended 8 to 10
8 to 10
based on the buildings, because we didn't want to so you got to do a 2-person unit if you could fit.
Yeah, I understand.
And really, it's up to council. We felt like we worked it hard to get to where we were to get things, but the density still didn't meet looking at it. But we never talked about I looked at it as a commercial, and they have commercial still on it.
So what I have on here is it says that using the standards in the PUD regulations, pod 1 could have a 6 density unit per acre ratio. Pod 2 could have a 5 density unit acre per ratio. So pod 1 was under the allowable and pod 2 was over, but the average between the two is right down the middle, about a 5.5. With reducing this, and plus considering what was just brought forward, it's right about where it's still allowable. It's no longer exceeding.
If it says on on the commercial side that they get 6 units, then that's different, because then there's a couple more units in that 6
Right.
acres. That gets you to, so say there's, 6 acres and there's 6.5, so it's another unit and a half per acre. You got 6 more units, you're at 170.
9 more. That puts it 180.
And they're at 170.
About where they're at.
So that's different. But that's how we looked at it as a planning commission.
Okay.
So
I appreciate
just wanted to bring that up of how we approach the project.
But everything
Thank
else,
you.
all the other concerns that you guys voiced or had,
Yeah,
they tried to address those.
they added amenities like we asked. They looked at the view corridor of Washington Fields. That was a recent change since it left our hands, which is good. I'm trying to think of the other one.
Roads.
Oh, the public streets we figured would work itself out.
Well, the
I
private
said
streets
it
versus
before and I'll
public.
say it again. You did some really good work for the
Yes.
city.
Well, and we just want to make sure we're following our code as a planning commission.
No, I
and so-
understand, and we don't take it lightly that
No.
we're sitting here with
Yeah.
an applicant that has a 4-to-1
Denial.
recommendation for denial, right? But
Yeah.
where they've taken your recommendations,
Yeah.
From that, we want the planning commission to know we're supporting what your concerns were, even though your negative recommendation still is.
Oh, no, and the reason why we did the negative recommendation is because we had 2 meetings. And a few things changed, but not everything changed. It didn't change until it came to council. And so I'm the one that recommended denial unless these things got taken care of.
I think your
Fully
recommendations are
And so
very
that's,
useful.
that's why we did it this way, so that you guys understand our concerns. But I personally think this is a nice project. I think it'll be nice. I still feel like it's too much density, in my opinion, but.
If it makes you feel any better, this is me inferring all your recommendations from the last time.
Oh.
We went through every single one of those, and I really applaud every one of those. I felt were very valid. And at the time that it came before the council, I didn't feel like those were addressed, which brought a lot of the frustration of where we got. And I think a lot of things are moving forward. I really applaud the professionality and what came before us, and I feel like it really gave us great guidance as a council. So thank you very much for your efforts. It really helped
Well,
us really.
Good luck on your decision.
So thank you very much.
And your feelings about the density would change if they were in that 8 to 10 instead of the 5 range. That's,
Sorry, what?
well, your recommendation was 8 to 10. They hit 5, a reduction of 5.
the
I'm
way
just
that-
clarifying your statement of
So-
you still feel it's too high in the density.
Well, because I'm looking at it as a whole.
Yeah.
It's 33 acres. I wasn't looking at the commercial side.
Right.
Because I'm looking at 33 acres and it has to meet, because of the general plan, it stated it's low density. So it's 4 units an acre. With our PD zone, it allows us to have a 25% increase.
Right.
So that got me to 5 dwelling units an acre. They're just over. So I was looking at it as, hey, there's 100 and at the time it was 184 or something like that. And I felt if we dropped 2 buildings, 8 to 10, it would meet the 5. It would be really close. It'd still be above that 5, but it would be close enough that it's here or there. So that's how I was looking at it.
One of the reasons, if I can express my thinking with that, because I think it's very good, why I'm kind of weighing in the balance the density where I'm at, no judgment, is it right at that middle part there in the pod 3 where it's got that larger park now. It used to have just a smaller section closer to the commercial. There used to be a roadway that went right through there. And by removing the roadway and adding that amenity, I feel like that amenity is more balanced out to the need of the people that are in there. The PUD lets us look at the overall concept and see, are we providing the right amenities and everything else? Do these things fit together? I do appreciate seeing an expanded amenity with so many houses and stuff being in there rather than just another road, and seeing how the roads have expanded to fully, these roads have increased by 16 feet, every one of them. They've really made some huge concessions to increase the safety and make sure that the land is used a lot, more conducive to single family residents. So I know there's probably some more houses that could possibly go down more density, but I feel like they've taken your recommendations and given us something else to talk about. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
My name is Angie Burrows, and we live right on 2000 East. So we're pretty much looking at it, and I know that this has been hammered to death, but I do have one specific question. Are they going to put in a turning lane from Washington Fields Road to 20 East? Because it's just ridiculous trying to turn either way into the subdivision, into our house. You know, the amount of backup that you get, say I have to turn left into my house, there's 3 cars behind me that are, you know, in the dirt going around me while I'm trying to turn. Not to mention, you know, the amount of times that we've pretty much been almost rear-ended.
Which one, you're 456 East?
We're 2000 south. We're the only
Part of the
house-
project is they've got to improve
And that's
their
my
side of
question.
the property now.
Well, their side, but does that mean that they're gonna add a turning lane into the main road? on
I'd have
2000
to defer
south?
that one to the public works. but we
Yeah,
can
I was
ask him.
trying to understand what you were saying. So you're coming off Washington Fields and turning south onto 2000?
Yes, and there's no turning lane from Washington Fields Road to 20 East.
Yeah, I know where she's at. I know where she's at. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to picture, so to 20, oh, you're talking to turn to 20 East.
Yeah, to the
Off
road
off of 2000 south.
Yeah, like that's where the turning lane
So
starts.
basically where their intersection is down right across from your house.
Yeah, because we're now gonna
So
have
your
an
concern is
intersection
having a turn lane and a decel and acceleration lane.
Yeah.
Mike, is the transportation master plan, that shows that as a 3-lane? Okay. So they'll have to improve their whole southern property line, which is going to
So
expand
it
the
will
width of that
be
roadway.
Included, kind of.
So
Yeah.
when that expands, you know, of course, your side isn't fully improved either, you know.
No.
But it will widen that roadway.
So it'll make it at least, adding all of these cars, it will at least make it.
Yeah, I can't tell you what the public works plan is right now on restriping, but when the time comes, it'll be restriped.
Okay.
Anyone else that would like to come forward?
Burke Staley. I live at 1723 South Karma Street. So our backyard goes right up against the new little park, the little walking trail between the two, what's the new one called? The new subdivision and the old one. We're right there. I've kind of been watching this project go all the way through, and I've driven out to Little Valley, seen some of the stuff they've done. And I don't want to be up here any more than just to say I've watched the whole process. I've watched your side and the planning commission and them work, and say that that my wife and I were supportive of the project. I think a lot of us we want it to stay like it is, but we all built houses there and made it like we are, and other people want to come and kind of experience the same lifestyle. I'm supportive of the diversity of the different houses. I look forward to new neighbors. I'll miss the big hayfield, but I'm supportive of that. And so I just wanted to stand up and say, as our family, my wife and I, we're empty nesters now, that we're supportive of the project. And